The opening of the Warri Refinery by the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu might just be the beginning of a power tussle and a silent battle for supremacy in Nigeria's oil and gas sector, which constitutes a significant aspect of the Nigerian economy. The story is a tale of two refinery giants, the Dangote Refinery and the NNPCL, both of which are stakeholders in the Nigerian economy. The first is private and owned by Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, with critics referring to it as a monopoly fronted by former government officials in Nigeria, while the other is state-owned but managed by a team that seemed to be recently defying the traditional narrative that government is a bad businessman. Whereas the Dangote Refinery has a capacity of 650 barrels per day, the NNPCL, with 3 operational plants in Porthacourt, Warri and Kaduna, has a total capacity of 450 barrels per day put together. But before we talk about the battle that lies ahead of these two petrol giants, the Warri Refinery, with its golden hills and towering structures, and just like the Porthacourt Refinery, constitutes a beacon of hope that has stood still for nearly a decade. These machines, once abandoned in the sands of time, are suddenly buzzing with the hum of revitalized engines, signaling a new chapter in Nigeria's quest for energy independence. For years, promises to revive Nigeria's ailing refineries had gone unfulfilled, and so while this is a day of celebration for many Nigerians, it remains one of cautious skepticism for some. According to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the coming alive of the Warri Refinery is not just a victory for the Tinubu administration, but for every Nigerian who dreams of a self-sufficient nation. But could this moment truly mark a turning point for Nigerians, and what does this portend for refinery giant Dangote? The reopening of the Warri Refinery came on the heels of a similar triumph which took place as the November restart of the Porthacourt Refinery. This twin success seemed to be dispelling doubts that had long shadowed Tinubu's administration. But before now, critics had labeled his government as sluggish and lacking vision, pointing to Nigeria's over-reliance on imported petroleum products as evidence of systemic failure. Yet, with 2 state-owned refineries back online, will there be a shift in the narrative and perception of the Nigerian public? The Porthacourt Refinery, which resumed operations in November, came with an announcement that met with derision from skeptics, including top politicians from opposition parties and media experts, arguing that these refineries will operate for a few months and then fall silent again. But the refinery's consistent output over the weeks that followed has continued to challenge that pessimism. And as the Warri Refinery joins the fray, perhaps even the harshest critics might begin to concede that Tinubu's energy policies might just be working. But could this amount to some new hope for petrol prices for the average Nigerian? The reopening of these refineries has reignited hope for lower petrol prices in a country where fuel costs have been a perennial burden. Nigeria spends billions annually importing refined petroleum products, despite being Africa's largest crude oil producer. This paradox has long stifled economic growth and burdened the average Nigerian. But with the Warri and Porthacourt refineries operating at 60% capacity, there is potential for significant cost savings as local refining reduces the expenses associated with importing fuel, especially those relating to shipping and logistics. Experts also estimate that this could slash petrol prices by up to 20% over the next 6 months if the refineries maintain consistent production levels. But the journey to affordable fuel will not be without challenges. Critics warn that maintenance issues, fluctuating crude oil supply, and global market dynamics could tamper the benefits. And for the Dangote Refinery, there remains a dilemma. While state-owned refineries celebrate their resurgence, a new battle is brewing in Nigeria's energy sector. The privately owned Dangote Refinery, a 19 billion behemoth with a capacity of 650 barrels per day, now faces unexpected competition. Recall that when the Dangote Refinery was inaugurated earlier this year, it was hailed as a game changer. Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man, had positioned his facility as the linchpin of Nigeria's energy future. With state-owned refineries in disrepair, Dangote enjoyed a monopoly on domestic refining. But the revival of Warri and Porthacourt refineries appears to be changing the game. The competition for crude oil supply is particularly intense. Nigeria, a country that produces roughly 1.5 million barrels of crude oil daily, but much of it is earmarked for exports to generate foreign revenue. With 3 major refineries now vying for a limited supply of crude, will the Dangote Refinery be able to find a position of economic advantage, especially as questions arise about allocation and pricing of crude oil? State-owned refineries benefit from their partnership with the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL), which oversees crude distribution. Dangote, on the other hand, must negotiate supply agreements in a market where demand is growing. This will test Dangote's business acumen, as some energy analysts have pointed out. But that is not where it ends. The revived refineries have also introduced pricing pressure, ushering a new era of competition. Since the Porthacourt Refinery began operations, petrol prices have seen marginal reductions in some regions of Nigeria. If the Warri Refinery's output follows suit, the NNPCL may announce further price cuts to reflect lower production costs. For Dangote, this poses a dilemma, leaving the refinery giant with the challenge of how to maintain profitability as the company faces the reality of balancing production costs with competitive pricing. And while some industry insiders believe this could spur innovations at the Dangote Refinery, such as adopting advanced refining technologies to reduce operational expenses, others have suggested potential collaboration between Dangote and the government to create a more integrated energy strategy. But despite the optimism, challenges remain. The Warri and Porthacourt refineries must prove their resilience, as Nigeria's history is littered with tales of short-lived successes in the energy sector. Also, a consistent maintenance, transparent management, and robust supply chains will be critical to sustaining operations. For the Tinubu administration, the stakes are high. These refineries are not just industrial assets, they are political symbols, and their success could redefine Tinubu's legacy, shifting the focus from past controversies to tangible achievements. But any failure would reinforce skepticism and further deepen public distrust in government promises. As for Dangote, the path forward requires adaptability. The competition may push his refinery to new heights or force him to reconsider his strategy. Either way, the landscape of Nigeria's oil sector is evolving, and every player must adapt to survive. The reopening of the Warri and Porthacourt refineries marks a pivotal moment in Nigeria's energy story. It is a tale of renewal and rivalry, of hope and skepticism. For the Tinubu administration, it is an opportunity to prove doubters wrong. But for the Dangote Refinery, it is a challenge to maintain dominance in a system where the company has previously enjoyed government-backed monopoly. In the end, the true winners of this unfolding drama will be the Nigerian people, especially if these developments lead to lower fuel prices, improved infrastructure, and a stronger Nigerian economy. The road ahead is fraught with uncertainty, but for the first time in years, the engines of Nigeria's refineries and its dreams are roaring again to life. Thanks for watching, and if this is your first time on this channel, please make sure to click on the subscribe and notification button for more videos on Nigerian politics and the Nigerian economy.